Hi, welcome everyone. Great to see you here. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll give it about a minute to let people log on. You're in for a really special treat today. To those who are logging on, if you would like to introduce yourself in the chat with your name and where you're logging in from, it's always fun to see who's joining us. And I think we'll get started. Okay, so I just want to aloha everyone and welcome you today. My name is Andrea Nandoskar. I'm the Education Program Director at Historic Hawaii Foundation. And thank you for joining us for this is the fifth lecture of the 2026 Annual Experts Historic Preservation Lecture Series. Can't believe how fast it's going. The series is curated and co-sponsored by the UH School of Architecture's Historic Preservation Graduate Certificate Program and Historic Hawaii Foundation. This year's theme is Preserving Hawaii's Parks, and today's presenters will speak about the Civilian Conservation Corps at Hawaiʻi Volcanoes National Park and Volcano on Hawaii Island. They'll be examining the park's broader historical and environmental significance and highlighting the CCC camp and its lasting contributions to the CCC Corps and the camp and its lasting contributions to the park. A note that we are recording all the lectures. They will be posted to our YouTube platform and the event webpage. And you can see the previous lectures there already. If you have questions throughout, please type them in the chat. We'll collect them and present them to our speakers at the end of their presentation. And if you can please take a brief moment to complete the survey at the end, which will pop up when you log off, that would be great. It's very helpful to us to know what you think and have your suggestions. For those who may be new to Historic Hawaii Foundation, we're a statewide nonprofit. We help people save historic places. These are sites that tell the stories of the multi-layered history of Hawaii. We do this through education, advocacy, assistance, and protection of and for historic places. I'd now like to introduce our series co-host, Dr. William Chapman, known as Bill by many who know him, who will say a few words, then introduce today's presenters. We hope you enjoy the lecture.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Aloha mai kako to everyone out there. It's so nice to have a speaker that was a former student. And as you know, the Historic Preservation Program has been offering the certificate since 1986. It recently moved over to the School of Architecture, and where I served as dean for 7 years. So it's nice to, again, have a chance to get back to it, and I'm enjoying it very much. So Summer was actually a student in the preservation program back in the day, but she is the Cultural Resource Program Manager and Section 106 Coordinator for Hawaiʻi Volcanoes National Park. She's been actually working there for 20 years. I think I met her when she was just a youngster, still a little wet behind the ears, and we did a field school together. I think it was the first time I met you. And she holds an undergraduate degree from Hilo in anthropology archaeology. And she did the degree in applied archaeology at Manoa as well. And we have a close relationship with them. So she's worked on a large range of cultural resource projects at Hawaiʻi Volcanoes National Parks. And you had a chance to go down to Samoa at one point to advise programs there. I remember that as part of your story. So Anekelea Hubner is who is co-presenting. He is the Hawaii Cooperative Studies Unit Cultural Resource Associate, a mouthful there, working at Hawaiʻi Volcanoes National Park. I had the chance to meet him last year when Jeff Tripp and I went over to do some work in the archives. So it's really nice to see you again digitally this time or online. So he has a degree from Brigham Young's University and in media arts, and he began working at Hawaiʻi Volcanoes just before the COVID time. And he started working to provide media content. And in 2021, he was part of a team that was nominated for the Freeman Tilden Award, which is the highest honor given by the National Park Service to interpretation projects. And so I'm really delighted to have them both here. And without further ado, I will pass the microphone over to Summer and Anekelea, and I will also get myself out of the.
All right. Thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks for the introduction and this opportunity from Historic Hawaii Foundation and UH to speak today. Can you guys see the presentation? Andrea, can you see it? Just want to make
Yes.
sure.
Yes,
Okay.
we're good.
Okay, great. So thanks again for taking time out of your day to join us. I hope that you enjoy our presentation. We think it's pretty interesting. And today we're going to take a deep dive into the Civilian Conservation Corps history through this really awesome story map that we put together, that Anekelea put together. And this was accomplished with a partnership with UH Hilo and the National Park Service, the story map was. And those familiar with the park may recognize some of the things that the CCC built that we're going to show pictures of today. Those from Ka'u and Puna may recognize some of their family members from these pictures we have of the CCC enrollees. This is a really awesome picture. I love it that you can see all their faces. And yeah, so hopefully you might see some familiar things today. And before we take a deep dive into the CCC history, I'm going to go over just how this area in Volcano became a national park. So I'm going to kind of give a crash course in the history of the national park here and the overlapping historical themes. I'll talk a little bit about how we document cultural resources through the National Register of Historic Places, some of the current changes going on in the park, and then Anekelea is going to show the CCC story map. And we'll talk a little bit about some projects, some challenges, some successes, and how you can get involved in the park. So in pre-contact time before Western arrival, the lands that is now Hawaiʻi Volcanoes National Park is sacred to many Native Hawaiians. It's a sacred landscape, and Kilauea is the lands of Pele Honua Mea, and the summit is considered the Vau Akua, or the realm of the gods. So there are many wahipana and wahikapu, which are storied and sacred places all throughout the landscape. Lots of mo'olelo, or stories, lots of mele, oli, chants documenting this area with observations and commemorations of this landscape. So thousands of descriptions in these oral traditions going back centuries. So traditionally, this is the ahupua'a that fall within the park lands, the ones that are labeled. So you can see there's a lot of ahupua'a in our current boundary. So this is the traditional division for the vertical land division. So many of them go from the ocean to the summits for to divide up the lands for different resource extractions. The landscape was also divided horizontally. So from the summits from the ocean to the summits, there was horizontal land divisions, and different activities occurred in those different divisions. So more along the coastal area people lived, and then the higher elevations, like in the summit of Kilauea, you really would only go for certain reasons, for spiritual purposes, or to collect resources like stone for tools or volcanic ash for your gardens. Higher elevations, you would do a feather collection or harvesting logs for canoes and things like that. So speaking, there's a rich archaeological landscape here in the park that dates back to this pre-contact era, where you have a lot of habitation structures down closer to the coast. I mentioned stone tools, so we have lithic quarries more in the summit areas. We have spiritual remnants of spiritual sites and trail systems all throughout. So you really see this pre-contact era archaeology all throughout every single elevation zone within the park. So post-contact, this is another historical theme. The first Westerner to come through the area was William Ellis in 1823 after contact happened in the late 1700s. And really soon after that, he wrote about the area. There's a lot of eruptive activity. And so a lot of people were drawn to the area to view these eruptions. And so the first actual volcano house was established in 1846. And prior to that, there was a lot of just rough structures that people would come up and stay. And then transportation advances, some rough roads were put in, steamships made it available. So people would come from Honolulu on a steamship, be able to come up to the volcano, stay in the volcano house and view these eruptions. So these are just some pictures. This is the 1866 volcano house. And this is a later version, the 1891 volcano house with the 1920s addition. So the first Westerner coming in 1823, you can see how fast this place became popular. And so the early tourism era is one of our historical themes. And a great resource we have is these volcano house guest registers. First one from 1865. And so people staying would log their register. They would write their write about their experiences, draw pictures. It's an awesome resource to learn about what people experienced and where they came from and anecdotes. And it's a really great resource. So just wanted to share this picture and just some pages up about our new cultural museum. We will have Volcano House Register on display and be rotating out. That will be opening in the near future. So this is also tied to that same, in that period of the late 19th century, the Volcano School was established. It was a group of artists. And so they did these really beautiful paintings of some of the eruptive events. Not only are they just beautiful and amazing pieces of artwork, but they also serve as a really good record of our geological history during that time. And the geologists today actually refer back to these paintings to learn about the eruptive history. Some of these artworks on display, which will be great to be able to share these with the public. So the next historical theme, Thomas Jagger arrived in 1912. So as I spoke about earlier, there's all these oral traditions documenting observations in this area, a lot of different chants that science, the indigenous science of a lot of the eruptive events. And then when Thomas Jagger came, he brought the first Western style science to study volcanology. And so he came in 1912 and established the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory, which has been continually operating to this day. So we have a lot of history of geological explorations. This Hawaiian Volcano Observatory building, which is no longer there, the current volcano houses. And so you can see different iterations of these buildings over time. Recently taken down after the 2018 eruptive event. So Thomas Jagger came, established the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. He was pretty instrumental or very instrumental in lobbying himself, and politicians and businessmen lobbied for this area to become a national park. It was a great place to study the volcanoes. And the reason why I have a Buffalo Soldiers picture here is because one of his ways to study the volcanoes is he really wanted to connect Kilauea and Mauna Loa and have access to study, easier access, because there was another trail up to the summit of Mauna Loa that was not quite as convenient. So they actually were able to bring a group of Buffalo Soldiers over in 1915 to establish that first trail from Kilauea to Mauna Loa, which now the current Mauna Loa trail overlaps with some of that first original route. So this is a picture of one of the Buffalo Soldiers that were, they came over to build the trail. And so that was one of his key points to lobby, having trails established. visitors and access. So that's another historical theme that a lot of people don't actually know, that the Buffalo Soldiers left a mark here and worked here. And later on, I have a link if you want to learn more about that historical theme. Okay, so the lobbying was Hawaiʻi National Park originally was established in 1916, and it was the 15th national park in the system. So this is a 1930s era map, but originally it was the summit of Kilauea, the summit of Mauna Loa, and Haleakala. It was all one park. And then in 1961 is when they broke all into their own units. And then Haleakala National Park was established and Hawaiʻi Volcanoes National Park. In 2016, the first appropriations didn't come. Its first superintendent, Thomas Bowles. And this is a picture of him, 24 eruptive event. As strict as it is now. So he got injured during that eruption. And this is 20s or late 20s. This is one of the first park signs coming into the park. And this picture shows the first superintendent office, which is no longer there, but that's around kind of a little bit further back from where the current volcano house is. So the next historical theme is the CCC. So that when they arrived, they really built a lot of the infrastructure we're familiar with today, but I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with that. I just wanted to put it in my timeline because Anekelea will take a deep dive into the CCC history. But that's when a lot of changes, a lot of things were being built and the trails were being established during that time period. Some other historical themes we have. Boundaries expanded. We acquired Kahuku Ranch in 2003. And that acquisition actually doubled our land size. Another ranch is Aina, that was established by Herbert Shipman in 1941. We have World War II history and Japanese detainment history. For a period of time during World War II, the KMC was used as a Japanese detainment camp. And this is a painting that one of the people made that the person was detained, and he painted this or drew this picture. And then we also have Mission 66 era infrastructure. So those are kind of most of our overlapping historical themes. Today, this is our current boundary, which expanded many times over the history of the park so far. And as you can see, it encompasses a lot of Kilauea and Mauna Loa, and it spans from sea level all the way above 13,000 feet at the summit of Mauna Loa. And we have 7 ecological zones, a lot of unique native and we have an abundance of cultural resources, and as I mentioned, overlapping themes of history, and all of this spans over this, 350 plus thousand acre national park. So I just wanted to mention our foundation statement. So every day we start with this, the 2 different bullet points. The first one is to protect, study, and provide access to Kilauea and Mauna Loa, 2 of the world's most active volcanoes, and to perpetuate endemic Hawaiian ecosystems and the traditional Hawaiian culture connected to these landscapes. And we have abundance of cultural resources. So we have, as I mentioned, lots of wahipana, there's ongoing cultural practices, living traditions, ethnographic resources. We have over 700 archaeological sites that we have documented, which some sites actually consists of many features, hundreds of features. And, is our internet going? Can you hear me okay? I just saw your message.
Yeah, it's a little spotty, and I don't know that there's anything that we can do. It's like you're talking and then it's freezing up intermittently for a second, which is making me hold my breath. And wonder if you're going to
I'm
come back, and then
sorry.
you're,
I
yeah,
think
I mean, I
I
think
think
it's
when
just,
you're facing the screen, it seems to go out less.
Oh,
So
really?
I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah, I know. We'll just keep doing the best we can, and everyone
Okay.
can, understand that we're doing the best we can.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
So we have let's see, where was I? Oh, the archaeological sites, over 100 historic buildings, cultural landscapes, museum collections, library and archive. So all of this, preserving and protecting and managing all this keeps us very busy. But it's a very rich place here at the. I just wanted to mention a bit about our documentation. So we go out and we survey, um, and we do a lot of documentation has been done so far. We haven't been able to survey the whole park yet, but we do that with our National Register of Historic Places eligibility. So we have a lot of different historic districts. Some of them are focused on archaeology, like this one is the Punaka'u Historic District. We have the Footprints National Register District. We have many districts that are all related to the themes I talked about. And a lot of work has been done, and there's definitely more to do. This is more focused in on the Kilauea Summit. So you can see all of these different polygons or different historic districts or archaeological sites. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about our documentation process. I just wanted to mention it because today we're going to really be focusing on the CCC. So this green line here is the crater rim, crater rim, weird shaped, like looks like a little bean or something, is the Kilauea Admin Employee Housing Historic District. And so those two historic districts, the CCC is one of the main historic significance of those districts. So we're going to talk about those. And then I just wanted to mention, so this is a mitigation. The story map was developed as a mitigation to this project that was in response to the 2018 eruption. During that eruption, a lot of changes occurred in the park. A portion of the crater rim drive actually subsided into the caldera when it was collapsing. The buildings that were built up at Ue Kahuna had to be removed from the landscape because they were too damaged. So there's a lot of changes going on in the park right now. So the CCC era, that was the biggest push of changes. And now we're experiencing another big push of changes due to the eruptive events. These changes actually ended up having adverse effects to historic properties. And so as a mitigation to resolve those effects, the CCC story map was one of the projects. So it's a great outcome. We never want to have adverse effects, but if we can do projects like this, it helps resolve those. Okay, so hopefully the internet's working okay. I hope that you guys and who is going to go over this awesome story map that really takes a deep dive into the CCC history. It's very interactive, and I'll pass it to him.
Aloha kako. As Summer said, I'm Anekelea. Oh, let me see here. Yes, so I made this story map, definitely with help from our team here. I'll talk a little bit about that later, but this is, for those who don't know, story map that can host multimedia elements, whether it be video, photo, audio, and then it also has accessibility options. So 508 compliance, making sure people that are part of or part of hearing will be able to also have the respective ability to have this pictures described to them. So each photo has a description, and there's a lot of photos. And each photo also has citations from either us or the National Archives. And then you can click anywhere on the story map to go to these different sections. So I'll just scroll through the story map, but this is a photo that I got from the National Archives. So part of this is the great archives that we have, but also incorporating other resources as well. And then also, if you're not familiar with the CCC, there's an introduction. 1929 stock market crash causes a severe economic downturn known as the Great Depression. FDR is elected, and he is kind of pushing for new legislation that could provide relief programs. And and then in 1933, the Civilian Conservation Corps, or as it was first known, the Emergency Conservation Work, was established through new legislation. And then, and this would be a way for young men to participate in public works programs, improving America's public lands, forests, and parks. And then there would be a period of 6 months where they would work. They would get $30 a month, $25 of which would support their families. And so during this time, the Great Depression, a time of high unemployment, this program was able to support people who may not have had the skills, but they could develop these skills to be hired by private firms later. In 1934, January, President Roosevelt allots over $400,000 for Hawaii, 171,000 of which was earmarked for projects in Hawaiʻi National Park. And so Edward Wingate kind of gets right on that. He's the park superintendent, and by the end of January, applications were coming in rapidly, and they wanted to support the local communities that were right outside the park. The majority of enrollees that worked in the park were men of Hawaiian and Japanese ancestry from the districts of Ka'u and Puna. And so this is an example of the letter that was sent by Wingate to the young men. I got a copy of that from our superintendent reports. And just to note, as Summer mentioned, 1961, the park split. So this story map covers the work done in the Kilauea and Mauna Loa section of the Hawaiʻi National Park, although there was a second camp and work done at Haleakala as well. And but this is mostly focused on what is today's Hawaiʻi National Park, or Hawaiʻi Volcanoes National Park. This is one of the interactive elements that people can look at. It's kind of a zoomed out section. There are pins in various locations. So it uses the capabilities of ArcGIS Online. At the park, a lot of times with archaeology, they use like ArcGIS Pro. And so this ArcGIS Online is kind of has more features that could maybe be transferred into a web page. I have this park base map, and I'm able to put pins in it in the different locations, and then you can click on pins out of order, see the various projects in process. So this is out at the footprints. There's a shelter. Many of you may have been there. But if you haven't, there's also a modern view of that shelter that the CCC made. I'll do another example. Let's go up Mauna Loa to this connector trail between Ainapo and the Mauna Loa Trail. And so this is the CCC. They helped build that connector trail. It was pretty cold up there. You can see the snow. You can see them in front of a former iteration of the Mauna Loa Subic cabin, and then you have a picture of them with a snowman. And these pictures, I gotta say, are courtesy of the family of Maui Lum. It took a little bit of finding because they've been accessioned into our collection from that great donation from the family, but they weren't cataloged yet. And so sometimes it takes a little bit of searching, but those personal stories and those personal pictures add an extra dimension that maybe the government documentation can't do as well. Maybe more formal, but those personal stories really speak to the experiences of the young men. Continuing on to life in the CCC camp. So this element, usually it zooms in pretty quick, but I'll zoom in a little more. All these maps are interactive. So it's right by, if you've ever walked out to the today's viewing area by Anekelea, Devastation Trail, and seen the eruption. It's actually to your right as you're walking down that old Crater Rim Drive. But that area was covered in cinders from 1959 Kilauea eruption, so there's not much out there now, but thanks to the archives and this photo you see from the National Archives, you see exactly where the camp is and that where you walk along the road or can walk along the road today. It was originally a summer camp, and then it was leased from the Volcano House who ran the summer camp. Here's a map that was found in papers associated with the summer camp. And then you can see the switch from that sign that says Auto Camp to CCC Camp. And so this is another interactive element. You see how it used to look before the landscape changed in 1959. The mess hall construction, so they built some buildings augmenting that initial summer camp. And then these there's progress photos and then completed building photos as well. Hopefully you're still getting that. So, and then a quote about how there were 2 platoons of 100 men. The men could elect their squad leaders. And there were educational and athletic activities, which you can see here, basketball or also music. There was a lot of music or talk of music in the superintendent reports. We'll talk a little bit about that later too as well. So here's some of the staff that help run the camp. Superintendent Wingate, which I mentioned, is right there. Dr. Jagger, which Summer mentioned, is next to him. And then Bertram Rivenberg is going to be talked about in this recording by Superintendent Wingate, who helped hire him. Yeah, and I think the recording, sometimes there's some glitches, but I'm going to try to play the recording for you right now.
Rudenberg had been secretary to Prince Kuhio in Congress when the park bill was passed, and he would damn sight more about national parks than I did. He was an older man by quite some years, but he impressed me as being quite capable of handling 200 boys in the camp and the other personnel. So I took him on, and I thought that he was the best of all the superintendents we had there. He did a very good job, but quit.
So that's an example of something from our tapes from our park library that had that interview that was done in the 1970s. Also, it's been transcribed, talking about how Rivenberg was secretary to Prince Kuhio during Prince Kuhio's time in Congress. And then recreation, again, from that Maui Elam family donation, we have all these boxing photos, which was kind of surprising, but honestly, the superintendent reports does talk a lot about boxing as well. It says popular boxing matches or smokers were conducted bi-weekly, and the matches were supervised and refereed by park rangers. I think I was reading just today, preparing, that there was up to 22 boxers practicing daily at the camp. So I think it was a favorite pastime. Also, another favorite pastime from what I've read is music, that there was multiple musical groups, and even a CCC orchestra that would play at events, and educational talks, various, or even Dr. Thomas Jagger, who was in that photo. That was built at Hawaiʻi Volcanoes National Park, or Hawaiʻi National Park at the time, is right in the research area where we're talking to you from today. So the is, I'm going to scroll down actually. We can look at this map. So here's this document from the Technical Information Center for the Park Service. And you can move around the overlay and then see the satellite image versus the map. And so one thing to note, a lot of these buildings don't exist today. They were later torn down or repurposed in the 50s. But the building we're in is actually this building 34, or Magma House, and it's still there. So you can see that. And the road alignment is very similar. And this took a little bit of time to put together. There's an aerial image from around the 50s, right? During, you see this building is being just deconstructed, but it's the best aerial image I could find of the camp. And you still have some of the extant buildings in that research area. That's the building 34 that we're in. But then you see there's barracks next to it. Multiple barracks, bathhouse, laundry house, mess hall. So you can click on this. It will load images of the mess hall under construction. And then what it looked like in the 50s. So it says 1949, actually, taken by Ranger Bender. And then the deconstruction photo as well, circa 1954. So I tried to incorporate as much data into the story map as possible, along with these references or citations that you can click, and it'll bring you to the end. And then you can see where I got the information from. And so here's another one, example of progress photo and modern view of this incinerator that still exists today. And getting into those historic districts that Summer mentioned, this is the Crater Rim Historic District, and highlighting some of the projects that the CCC did in that Crater Rim Historic District, with a link to the Cultural Landscape Inventory on our website if you wanted a more detailed version of that. But again, maybe something to highlight here, the Kilauea Trail extension under where the Nahuku lava tube is. It was connected, so they helped make, or the CCC helped make it a loop trail to connect the older portion on the Ueloha or Byron Ledge side. So the switchbacks, if you've hiked that trail, were made by the CCC. So very similar kind of, you'll see it once you go out there. It's kind of fun to look at this story map and then go to the place and look at it. But this is an example of another project, erosion control. So the CCC didn't build this road, the Crater Rim Drive per se, but they helped with these culverts. But unfortunately, some of those culverts were recently covered in a 2025 eruption. But gratefully, we have all this information on them, and they've been well documented by our archaeology team. And then you have the Kilauea Administration Employee Housing Historic District. And there's another great map here. It took a little bit of time, like the other ones. It's just getting all of these building folders, correlating some of the construction photos, because sometimes the building number they have here was not what they were using when the building was being built. I don't think they called it quarters 18 necessarily until after it was built. but it's the first of 5 matching employee quarters. So I was able to kind of tell when each building was completed, and that helped me find the right photo for each building. Because building 1819 is also very similar building. And then 20, also similar building. And then you have some different ones like, 21 is very similar. 27 is a duplex. So that's, you see some of the stonework on the mantle from that building. One building to note, which is kind of a funny kind of documentation thing that I had to figure out. Building 60 was moved to the current building 178. So this building was put on stilts and kind of cool. And I'm going to have a nice slider down near where building 34 is, where we are right now. But the current view, same building, changed most definitely, but it's in the maintenance area, which is not near where we are. You got to drive down the road a little bit. And so some sliders. I got to thank some of the people that were around back then, some of the rangers taking pictures, because they took pictures in the exact same spot, which is perfect for sliders. And I think they were trying to show the progress of work. So that's why they wanted that, that same kind of angle on their reports. Now, I talked about the mantle work with the stonework, but we have this great interview courtesy of Hawaiʻi National Park. Some of the men worked in the Haleakala section and the Kilauea section. And this interview is with Alvin Rex Ornelas, and he was an enrollee from 1939 to 1940 in our camp, specifically over HNP1 in the Kilauea section. So he has some things that he talks about in this audio interview, which may or may not play. Let me try this version. I tried to preload some of these elements so they wouldn't buffer when we were talking. So let's see if this works.
We all learned the trade. Most everybody learned the trade. We built rangers' quarters, nice homes. If you ever go up there, go see if you can visit some rangers' quarters.
This is all Kilauea.
Right behind the rest house.
Okay.
Kilauea. Behind the rest house, that's where our camp was back there. Big camp.
And what trade did you learn?
I learned electrical work. I was a camp electrician.
Good for you.
I drove a truck, and then I became the right-hand man from the electrician, a civilian worker. Yes, a retiree from Hawaiʻi Electric Light Company. I was his assistant, his right-hand man.
Wow.
I learned to wire houses. The boys built houses, rangers' quarters. I did the electrical work, me and the foreman and another one of my buddies from Honolulu. We went to Honolulu and we joined the camp together. He and I worked together. We were lucky. The third one had to go work someplace else. Anyhow, others learned to be carpenters. Some learned to be stonemasons. We built beautiful mantles, fireplaces, out of lava, with a chimney and everything.
So, yeah, he talks about those mantles and some of the houses that we looked at. And so it's just adding that kind of personal story or experiences is just so invaluable to the work that I was doing. And I'm grateful for the people that helped put that interview together. Yeah, so it could be featured in the story map and more people could see it. Here's talking about another specific building, our visitor center. People may have visited the Park Visitor Center. There was a garage there. It was torn down. You have the basement being built with the sliders again. And then this is a great slider showing. And I have the date down here, February to April. In 1941, showing the progress in only a few months. And then Here is an example of that completed building. It was originally the Volcano Observatory and Naturalist building, and then used by the Army and help from the Army finishing the building once World War II started, or American involvement in World War II started. And then this is the building after the war. This is an example of the building before the 2025 renovation. And the renovation is actually going to remove this lanai section. So maybe it will look, you'll see some of that front elevation that the CCC built a little more, a new angle maybe of the building once the renovations are completed. Let's see, here is just events, significant events or highlights. Walking in the Hilo Kamehameha Day Parade on 1934. A video, this was another great find, donated. I think we're indebted to the family of Harold V. Lucas. Harold V. Lucas was president of the YMCA on the island at the time, and he has video specifically of Roosevelt in visiting Hilo. And that donation from the family, it wasn't processed yet, but it's just so invaluable. Once I heard that it might be there, I had to go find it and get permission again from the family to use this footage, and we were able to do that. Here's some great photos from our archives of Roosevelt's visit, him signing the Volcano House and National Park registers, and then you can even see what he wrote. He writes, "In fulfillment of a long cherished dream, Franklin D. Roosevelt." So visiting the park might have been significant to him. And then here is the register from the National Park Register signature as well. And so more photos, that's him inspecting the CCC men along the road near that first camp. And then Dr. Jagger in the car with him, and then him looking at the crater. And this area has since collapsed in the crater after the 2018 eruption, that overlook. Here is talking about the eruption that was a little bit later in September. And the CCC helped with traffic control, facilitating safe eruption viewing. And they also assisted in a live broadcast from the rim of the crater. So here is some of the CCC enrollees next to the mic for that live broadcast. Here is some archival footage from our park collection of that eruption from 1934. And then another significant event that was also a very tragic event was the death of Peter Hawley. He fell off a truck brought to the military camp hospital, and then pronounced dead. But his funeral was attended by his fellow CAP enrollees and the park superintendent, and the enrollees helped actually pay for his gravestone. And I was able to find a picture of his gravestone at the National Archives. So very kind of significant pieces of history to feature. And then on maybe a little bit of a lighter note, talking about those musical events being featured in radio, and then the boys kind of being able to help the Rangers as well with a program, and then there's a dance and stuff. So just trying to feature maybe some of the significant visitors. This is the Volcano House fire, 1940, with photos. George Lycurgus was the proprietor. He was rescued by several people, including CCC enrollees, from the flames and the smoke. Vocational training, defense training. These is a group of enrollees training in welding. And then another tragic death to note is the death of John Makaimoku. I looked through the records at what John did, and he actually was with the CCC from when it first started at the park until almost to where it ended. You see September 18th, 1941, so not long before the December attack on Pearl Harbor. And he rose in the ranks to be head foreman, and it was very tragic for the CCC enrollees and for the park when he died. He was actually working that day, and then it says he collapsed and he had a blood infection. And then the camp is dissolved after America's involvement in World War II. But decades later, you have this CCC reunion, a photo of the reunion. Sorry, I don't want to go over time, but this is a quote about the legacy, how from the park superintendent, building the men up both morally and physically, taught them trades so that they may secure employment in the future. And so, and then the legacy also is these are Jobs Corps enrollees, not CCC enrollees. The Jobs Corps was a later program, but they're in front of that CCC built Magma House. So kind of the continuing legacy of service and in the park. And then some credits, the great team that helped us out, the families, our partners, and then HCSU, which is what I'm a part of. So, and then going back to the presentation, I just wanted to share a few resources. Hopefully we can share these out with you. But something to note, if anyone wanted to make a story map, Earth Explorer has great aerial photos. You have topographic maps that are provided by USGS. Kipuka database and also the State Survey Land Search has great historic maps going all the way back to the Mehele. And then, the State Archives, especially for Hawaii, has a great digitization project we've done. And also we've had a great digitization project with our team here. And so those are resources that you can use and, put those things together. And I think you could easily, for many areas in Hawaii, make a story map for an area that you're focused in. So I'm hoping those resources might help someone. And then challenges, successes, and next steps. I'm just going to say the challenge for me is maintaining the story map. The park has kind of a standard for GIS content that is constantly being looked at or audited. So making sure our content has all of the appropriate labels, is in compliance with various laws. And so it's a constant kind of gardening, making sure that the story map can be a part of the webpage, but also in the future, say, if we don't use ArcGIS online, saving these photos and saving this information so that whatever the future iteration of a story map may be or of a web page may be, we might still have all this information to be shared with the public that we've been able to compile. I'm going to turn over to Summer if she wants to share any more.
Thank you so much. That story map is incredible. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Just wanted to kind of close out. And yes, one of our challenges and something that Anekelea has been super helpful with is taking all this great information and all the research and all archival material and making it in a format that we can share with the public. So he's really great at that. And it's good to get this information out to a broad audience. So yeah, and then just some of the other challenges is just getting all of our national registers updated. We are in a living landscape, so there's constantly changes to our environment, the built environment, as well as the natural environment. So just keeping everything updated is a challenge. And I think Anekelea mentioned it many times. We have a lot of things like backlog projects for archives and everything. So keeps us all busy. And we have a bright future, though, of lots of good work to do ahead. And it's really a blessing to work here and to be able to contribute and preserve our history, our rich history. So yes. And let's see what else. Oh, get involved with the park. So come visit the park. That's a way to get involved. It's a very special place, very sacred place. We always want people to visit, keep safety in mind, and be respectful of this place. Visit our website. We have lots of good information. Like I mentioned before, we have lots of web pages, videos about some of our projects. This history and culture page will take you to pretty much all of that. We have lots of volunteer programs. We have Hawksbill Turtle volunteers. We have Stewardship at the Summit, which happens, I think, once a month. But all these links will provide information. The Stewardship Project is clearing out invasive vegetation, and it's really rewarding. And usually there's a large group that works together. We have education programs available for field trips for students, if you're interested. Lots of information on our webpage. And we have partners like the Friends of Hawaiʻi Volcanoes National Park and our Hawaii Pacific Parks Association. And we have a Work With Us page. We have lots of internship opportunities, which is great training and good to get experience with, hands-on work to help us document, preserve, and perpetuate our cultural resources here at the park. This in the future, this is a picture of the Ohia Wing building where our future museum is going to be, with some of our collections will be on display and some of those paintings I was talking about. We're putting together a volunteer docent program, so that'll be another opportunity to get involved. And if anyone's interested, please reach out. Here's our contact information. The story map link is there. If you have any additional questions you think of later, reach out anytime. We have our emails here, and we hope that you enjoyed the presentation. And we're really grateful to have this story map available to share. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Summer and Anekelea. It was a terrific presentation. I think opened up everyone's eyes to the potential for story maps and different ways of understanding and different ways of interpreting sites. Andrea's collected a nice collection of, put together a bunch of questions, and they keep scrolling up here, but one question was about Mauna Kea. Why was Mauna Kea not ever included in the park? I don't know if that's something you know. I don't really know, but
I think I don't know either, like for sure, but I would kind of lean towards the active volcano theme that Kilauea and Mauna Loa, Thomas Jagger and his cronies were really interested in studying the volcanoes and providing access to the eruptions. So I would think it has something to do with that. I wouldn't quote me on that, but that would be my gut feeling on the answer.
It's a long way away from Kilauea, and I think one thing that you didn't have to get into, of course, but it took a long time to assemble the land for the park. When the park was first declared, it was just a few parcels around the volcano house, and then eventually it expanded. So
yeah,
they did have observatories and still do at Haleakala too, so there was overlap on that. But I think that may have helped drive the Haleakala Park as the possibility for that. So anyway, how many men worked at any given time?
Sorry, Bill, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Of
I just
course.
wanted to first off ask Summer and Anekelea if you're okay staying on for just a couple more minutes to do live questions since we're recording. And I already mentioned that. Oh, thanks. I already mentioned that in the chat for anyone who needs to log off. Please stay if you can. If not, we're recording. So, okay, great. Thanks, Bill. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, there was a question that's kind of just now slipped away about WPA murals. Were there any murals done in the park?
no murals.
No. Yeah. Herb Kane and what's his name? Paul Rockwood did a lot of great paintings at different times, particularly in the post-war period. So know that. And they have those in your collection, right? You have,
We do. Yep. We'll
Paul
have one
Rockwood
Herb
collection.
Kane on display in the Ohia Wing Museum. That will be on display. We do. I think one of the Paul Rockwoods might be in rotation too.
He also
So-
did a lot of work at the Bishop Museum, so some of you may. He did the sort of dioramas and things that were great. How many
Mhm.
people were in the program at any one time? That was a question.
I believe it was about 200, right?
200, yeah.
There had been a question, when did it end? But I think you answered that before
Yeah.
they got there. So 42.
Mhm.
And
One thing
Go ahead.
I wanted to mention is the Kilauea Visitor Center, which a lot of you are probably familiar with, was like their last big project. And then that was the last big construction project. And then, the war came and then the CCC dissolved. So.
And the Army finished that one up, right? And they made
Mhm.
that was the headquarters for the Hawaii Island District during the war. So
Mhm.
it's like less than a month, I think, after the
Mhm.
reopening of Volcano House, the war broke out. So they didn't get to, George Lycurgus didn't get to enjoy that very much. But they, you often feel that they were just taken away, but they were pretty well paid in the end. All the landowners, all the people, they got money from the military. But some of it took a while, but they did get money. Let's see. Can you say more about the process of creating the story map?
Pass that to you.
A lot of it's digitization of photos. Some of it was already digitized as a part of a park project, but then some of it, like the Maui collection, was me digitizing that collection, but it was just so invaluable. A lot of it is Control F on your keyboard of various documents like the superintendent reports, figuring out how the reports worked, reverse engineering the reports and extracting that CCC data. So I would extract pages once I kind of got a gauge. And then looking at the physical papers in our archive and looking at the physical papers in the National Archive. The National Archives, I put NARA 2 in that slide. That's Maryland. They have a Civilian Conservation Corps specific record group. However, this park was, or our projects in Hawaii were unique because they didn't have the military running them or collaborating in running them. It was really the territory or the Park Service. So it was kind of different than other Civilian Conservation Corps camps. So the territory had their own camps, the Park Service had camps here. That also changes where records are located depending on who was helping administrate these. The repositories of the camps in Hawaii were slightly different. And so I had to track that down a little bit. Just getting creative with how to search various databases. It's what keywords you're looking for and what kind of trying to track where records might be, as I mentioned.
So another question related to that: do you have any plans for new themes?
Yes,
But
we do.
Yeah, maybe
came to
some.
mind to me. I did a big report on World War II in the park. It would be
Yeah.
interesting to get that out there.
Yeah, I love having these types of things available. They're interactive and they really engage people. So, but currently we are working on another story map for our rainwater collection system. That is another big project that Park is doing to update our system, which is all collecting rainwater. So that one, we're having more adverse effects, and one of the mitigation is to create a web page story map to talk about the evolution of water collection in the park. It's pretty interesting. Like you wouldn't think something like that is, I don't know, when you start looking at it, it's really interesting and such an important thing. We couldn't run the park without the water. We all have to have water. So, and all of our water comes from the rain here in the park, and it's our
Super
only.
interesting. It's one of the reasons that wasn't settled by Hawaiians to any great degree is there wasn't water up there.
Yeah, so we're going to be working on that one and hopefully some more, more web page material. And we have been working on some short videos, which Anekelea is very good at too, highlighting some of our projects, which you can see some of those on our webpage. So just trying to get more information bridge the gap between what we do and sharing it out with the public is something I really focus on. I think it's important and it's interesting, and it really just brings a lot of information to people in a good digestible format. Sometimes we get these 300-page reports, but not everyone's going to read that. But if we can take that information, make it interesting and engaging, and share it out, that's really important. So, yeah.
Do you have a way to track? I know you can like track hits of how many people are viewing it. Is there like a back end way that you're going to be following to be able to actually see in any way, shape, or form like who's using the map and how, and
Yeah,
get any feedback? Oh, cool.
we do. We have analytics that the interpretation team tracks on. Most of our hits are like, we want to see what's going on with the eruption, of course, but we do have data that we can pull to see how many people are actually accessing the pages, which is interesting. Of course, we don't get as much hits as the eruption, but that's okay. As long, I mean,
That's
it's
a hard
kind of
one
like,
to compete with.
yeah, and for me, it's kind of like almost like a library. Like, it's available, and that's the most important thing. It's available. And so even if like a million people don't look at it, at least it's available. We can share it. The information's there, especially with the story map. All the resources are there. It's kind of, you can look at where all the things came from. And so you could actually use it to go off in a different direction. You have those archival resources available and all the references. So yeah, this just kind of opens up everything. So very thorough. And yeah, and also too, like, if history is never complete, I'm sure Bill can speak to that. If we find something else, we can add it to the story map. And so it's kind of a living thing too, where if another family comes forward and donates some really awesome pictures, we can add it, we can reference it. It's a kind of a living thing. So that's cool.
Thank
I
you.
think one of the things that came out of, for me, this kind of change of the CCC toward more vocational training toward the end in the late 30s, early 40s, particularly. A lot of people always think that the attack on Pearl Harbor was a complete surprise, but for 2 years, the U.S. had been investing a huge amount of money in preparing for a war that might affect Hawaii. And CCC was part of that. They were learning how to be welders and to go to work over at Pearl Harbor. So, and there were huge numbers of civilian employees in Hawaii at the time, which is an interesting story that's often not repeated. So,
Thank you. I think maybe Bill, there was one last question that came in maybe, and then we can, thank
which one
you.
about the federal funding?
It was about, it's a little bit of a tender question, but it was about how recent federal funding cuts affected your work or programs. And when you respond, I mean, is there any way for the public to support you in that, if there's ways that we can support, if there were and are repercussions, which I'm sure there are?
Yeah, I'm trying to think about the best way to phrase the answer. There's definitely been some challenges. I think ways to get involved on our Get Involved page. The Friends of Hawaiʻi Volcanoes National Park and the Hawaii Pacific Parks Association are partners. The HPPA, which is the Hawaii Pacific Parks Association, they sell all these awesome merchandise that's park themed and based on our historical themes, our plants and animals, great gifts. And part of the proceeds from that goes directly to the park. And then they also do like roundup donations. They have so much great merchandise. Like, I just do all my Christmas shopping there every year. So it's good stuff. So that's a good way. It benefits you if you need to buy a gift, or if you want some pretty earrings or whatever. They have an online store too. And then that's a good way to support us like that. And some of the, like I said, some of the proceeds go to park programs and things like the Stewardship at the Summit and other programs that really help take care of this place. So we always appreciate people being involved like that. So
Thank you, Summer.
I want to thank both of you. And Andrea, usually you want to say something at this point. I've got another appointment coming up, so I can't go on indefinitely. So
No, we're wrapping up here. And thank you all for staying on just a couple minutes. Yeah, I just before I hand it off to you for the final goodbye, Bill, I just want to thank you so much, Summer and Anekelea. It's so fascinating. I encourage everyone to spend some time with the story map after this, and I think they will. And I hope that you all, thanks for staying on. There's quite a few people who stayed on, almost everyone. And just want to put a big mahalo out for the work that you folks do at Volcanoes, and especially the archival historical tending that you do for all of us. It's amazing. And I want to invite everyone to our last lecture next week, which is a little bit different. It's going to be a forum, State Parks and County Park Directors Forum, a 90-minute session. And please sign up for that if you haven't yet. It will be recorded as well. Please do respond to the survey after you log off. You would be so kind. And thank you for supporting HHF, UH, the Graduate Certificate Program. Thank you to Bill for all your support. And thank you to Shanae, my colleague, who's been tending the back end on tech support. And Bill, I hand it off to you.
I don't have much to add. I just want to thank you both. It's really good seeing you both. And I hope you'll all be there next week. So ahui ho.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Take care,
Ahui ho, everyone.
Ahui ho.